Coming up on Network Africa. At least 20 children killed after being trapped in a fire at their school in Niamey, Niger. South Africa temporarily suspends the rollout of the Johnson & Johnson COVID-19 vaccine. Plus, Somali President Mohamed Farmajo signs a law extending his mandate by 2 years. Hello and welcome to the program, everyone. I'm Layo Adegoke. We begin with a rather tragic story coming from Niger. At least 20 school children have died after their classrooms caught fire in the capital, Niamey. The inferno is said to have started around the entrance of the school, spreading to 21 classrooms that are built with straw, trapping the children inside.
Preschool children attending school to get an education, only for their lives to be cut short by an inferno. At least 20 nursery students have been killed by fire in an impoverished school in Niger after they became trapped in their straw-hut classrooms. A teachers' union official says many students were forced to scale the walls to escape because there was no alternative route. Those who couldn't get out were the little ones in preschool.
There were 21 straw-hut classrooms. Around 20 children were trapped in the blaze. If you look at the configuration of the school and where the classrooms were placed along the street, the power of the fire was enormous, and that is why the classrooms caught fire so quickly, and the children were unable to get out.
The Prime Minister has visited the school to offer his condolences to the children's parents.
To lose such young children on the eve of Ramadan is really sad, and all my condolences go to the families. We share their pain. They are everyone's children, so all of us are affected. We will do everything so that the perpetrators, if it is a crime, the perpetrators will be brought to justice.
The origin of the fire is still unknown in the school, where about 800 students attended. According to the UN's development rankings for 189 countries, Niger is the world's poorest nation.
Well, we move to Egypt, where at least 20 people have also been killed in a bus crash in the Egyptian province of Asyut, south of Cairo. Local officials say the accident happened on a desert road when the bus hit a broken-down lorry and then burst into flames. Dozens of people have died in recent weeks in a spate of road and rail accidents in Egypt. Well, still in Egypt, the country says it will impound the giant container ship that blocked the Suez Canal last month until its Japanese owners pay $900 million in compensation. One of the Ever Given's insurers, UK Club, said the Suez Canal Authority had rejected its offer to settle the claim. It describes the claim, which includes $300 million for salvage bonus and $300 million for loss of reputation, as extraordinarily large and largely unsupported. The Ever Given is anchored in the Great Bitter Lake, the canal's midway point. The 400-meter-long township became wedged diagonally across the waterway on the 23rd of March after running aground amid high winds and a sandstorm that affected visibility. Well, joining us now for more on all that's happening in Egypt is the VOA's Edward Iranian in Cairo. Hello, Edward. Thank you for speaking to us.
My pleasure, Layo.
Well, what more details can you tell us concerning the unfortunate accident that we mentioned earlier, 20 people killed?
Well, I think there was a little bit of optimism in the statements about what happened earlier about the possibilities of survivors, I mean, it looks fairly remote that there would be any survivors if you look at how badly burned up the bus was. So I think there was a part of optimism and a part of wanting to downplay what actually happened because the bus was pretty much a total wreck. Of course, it's tough to say what the actual figures are. Figures, the government said 20 people were killed and 3 were wounded. I don't know how they would have been wounded from that bus thing, but someone was thrown out the window. In any case, it was a very bad accident, and really, I don't know how it would have survived. They're saying a few people did. And that road that was going from Cairo to Butte, it's a really well-traveled road. I don't travel it because I don't drive in Egypt for these very reasons. And they're really very dangerous because people don't drive safely. So we think it's a tragedy, but bound now and then.
Well, you know, over the past few weeks, dozens of people are said to have died in a spate of road and rail accidents. What is the government's response, in curbing this?
Well, the government tries to give people the sense that it's doing something, and I guess it does. I mean, I do run across the prime minister actually here in Cairo from time to time. A very competent man, and I think he has the well-being of the country at heart. But I mean, a lot of these things are way beyond the control of the government because infrastructure is, you need to invest a lot of infrastructure in the infrastructure, and the money isn't always there. And there are a lot of people in Egypt. It's a very populated country. I'm sure Nigeria is also. So, there are a lot of problems that are difficult to resolve. And while the government tries, as with the railways, where they've made a very strong effort to buy new rail stock and new locomotives, of course, the biggest problem, of course, is the track, where you really need to invest a lot of money to do that. So there's no quick fix to the track, and official said they need to shut down the railways for a whole year in order to fix the tracks, and they can't do that because too many people rely on them.
All right, Edward, let's talk about the seizure of the ship that blocked the Suez Canal. Egypt is asking, the Suez Canal authorities are asking for $900 million in compensation. What exactly do authorities plan on doing with the money, perhaps to compensate other ships that were stuck at that time?
I doubt the Egyptian government or the Canal Authority is liable for the losses of the other ships, and that would be done probably individually where they would sue the ship owner. I think Egypt probably would use the money to invest in repairs to the canal or improvements, dredging so that this kind of thing doesn't happen again, or widening at some points, or probably a lot of it, maybe half of it, is probably earmarked for paying for the foreign companies that helped to reopen the canal, and for the workers that were involved in clearing the canal or working overtime. Admittedly, that's probably less than half the amount that the government is seeking, but it's also possible the government is asking for $916 million because they're expecting an offer in return that's less than that. So they want to go on the high side.
All right, then. Thank you so much, Edward Iranian, the VOA's correspondent in Cairo. Thank you for speaking to us.
My pleasure, Lyle.
Moving on to other stories, the governor of Mozambique's Cabo Delgado province has met with health workers in the city of Pemba that was attacked by Islamist militants last month. Governor Valige Tuabo met with 779 health professionals from the districts of Mundembe, Kozanga and Palma, who worked in 40 health centers that were vandalized during the attacks. The meeting discussed ways to continue assisting the displaced people in the area. Although the health workers say they had traumatic experiences in the districts, they are still willing to work if security is guaranteed. The governor said he was touched by the professionals' willingness to work and says another meeting would be scheduled to discuss more issues. Well, it is still a despairing situation for families and individuals who have abandoned their belongings and livelihoods in northern Mozambique following insurgent attacks in March. The United Nations says in the town of Palma in Cabo Delgado province, many people remain desperate. Manuel Fontaine, UNICEF's Director of Emergencies, adds that this is both a large and likely long-lasting humanitarian crisis.
Both a large and likely long-lasting humanitarian situation. 1/3 of the population displaced right now. Really striking to see in some towns that the population has doubled, in some cases tripled. And so you imagine how heavy it is for populations and towns and villages that are already poor.
We need to get $1 million immediately in order to make sure that we don't have a stock out of the ready-to-use therapeutic food that saves children, for example. And then the cholera response really needs more money now. The numbers are much down in Cabo Delgado because of a huge effort by the government and UN agencies, including UNICEF and WHO. But there is a very high risk of another outbreak in these conditions, and it is already spreading to neighboring provinces. So that is critical.
In response, WFP is organizing emergency food distributions for families who have fled the violence in Palma and is providing high-energy biscuits as well as ready-to-eat immediate response rations that are comprised of rice, pulses, vegetable oil, canned foods such as sardines and beans, biscuits and water, enough to last them 2 weeks.
Images of South Sudan's President Salva Kiir being vaccinated against COVID-19 have been publicized in the hopes of encouraging more citizens to do the same. Rollout began in South Sudan last week, and the first people to receive the vaccine were health workers and people aged 65 and over. The official government Twitter account shared this photo of the president getting the jab. Now, South Sudan received 132,000 vaccine doses through the COVAX Global Initiative. The country has 10,387 confirmed cases of coronavirus, including 114 deaths. Well, South Africa says it is voluntarily and temporarily suspending the rollout of the Johnson & Johnson COVID-19 vaccine following the announcement by the Food and Drug Administration of the temporary suspension of the use in the United States. On Tuesday, the U.S. Center for Disease Control and Prevention, as well as the Food and Drug Administration, recommended that the country halts the use of the J&J single-dose COVID-19 vaccine. Our South Africa Bureau Chief, Betty Dibia, gives us more.
Following the latest advice by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, South Africa's Health Department held consultations with the researchers leading the Sisonke trials, the Ministerial Advisory Committee, as well as the South African Medical Research Council, and this is the outcome.
Based on their advice, we have determined to voluntarily suspend our rollout until the causal relationship between the development of clots and the Johnson & Johnson vaccine is sufficiently interrogated. SAPRA will collate information from Johnson & Johnson, the FDA, and other regulatory bodies to make a thorough assessment of the situation and advise us as a regulatory body that has exercised its authoritative powers on the approval of the vaccine in their own right. I humbly call for calm and patience as we ensure that we continue to be properly guided by science in ensuring the safety of our people as we roll out the vaccine campaign.
Nearly 300,000 health workers have been inoculated with the Johnson & Johnson vaccine in South Africa under the Sisonke protocol without recorded major adverse effects. The health minister was asked if this suspension was not a knee-jerk reaction given the low risk-benefit ratio of the vaccine, even in the US scenario where only 6 people out of 6.8 million exhibited blood clotting.
The feeling has been that because this announcement has come from the FDA, and we would need to collate as much information. We think that it's a precautionary halting. So it's not like we're closing down on the Johnson & Johnson. As soon as the information is made available, we're quite certain that we should be able to move on. But when there's concerns that have been raised, we believe it's important to take them seriously. And so in the current consultation that we've gone through, we have seen that this is what we need to do.
The minister hopes that phase 2 of the vaccine rollout plan in the country, expected to begin mid-next month, will not be veered way off course with this development, especially as the country has secured 10 million additional doses of the Pfizer vaccine, bringing the total to 30 million. The Medical Research Council is also studying relevant data on the Johnson & Johnson vaccine to see if the process could resume as soon as next week. Also, as people are expected to register en masse next month, a risk awareness consent element will be added to the online registration platform. From Johannesburg, South Africa, Betty Dibia, Channels Television News.
Still ahead on the program. Google honors Nigeria's prolific artist Oliver De Coque with a doodle on his 74th posthumous birthday. Please stay with us. Welcome back to the program. Some South African residents seem to be confused as to why the country is suspending its use of the Johnson & Johnson jab, especially because there has not been any reported cases of blood clots. However, some others think it's a good thing that will save lives.
He's left us all wondering. He could have furnished us with some reasons and told us why, given us some scientific research behind his decision. So until now, all of us are left wondering.
I don't think it's a good idea because we need it. We need to be vaccinated so we can survive.
Well, I think it's a little bit premature given the fact that we have had no local reports in terms of the blood clot. But however, you can understand the minister's decision given the fact that FDA is one of the leading in terms of the health organization in the world, and you know what happens in the US tends to influence what happens in the rest of the world.
It's a good thing, I'll say, because it can save lives.
South Africa's former President Jacob Zuma has until Wednesday to suggest the penalty the country's highest court will hand to him in the event he is found guilty of contempt. In February, Mr. Zuma had failed to appear before Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo's Commission of Inquiry to answer corruption allegations, which he denies, despite the Constitutional Court ruling that he was compelled to do so. In last month's hearing, the Commission asked the court to sentence the former president to 2 years to show the court's authority and the seriousness of Mr. Zuma's actions. The court, however, withheld judgment in the case. Mr. Zuma at the time said he wouldn't be afraid to go to jail if the courts decided so, adding he'd not appear before the Commission because he had lost trust in the justice system. To politics now, Somali President Mohamed Abdullahi Farmajo has signed a law extending his presidential mandate by 2 years. This follows the parliament's approval of a motion to extend the term over the disputes that has caused the delay in conducting an election in the country. Mr. Farmajo's term expired on the 8th of February, while that of the parliament ended in December. And indirect parliamentary and presidential elections that should have followed have been derailed by political political disagreements. In the meantime, Somali opposition leaders and regional states of Jubaland and Puntland, as well as the country's Senate, have all rejected Parliament's decision. Somalia's donors, including the United States and the European Union, have also opposed the decision. The EU on Tuesday said the action was divisive and posed a grave threat to the peace and stability of the country. Benin Republic's President Patrice Talon has been re-elected with 86% of the votes, according to provisional results released by the National Electoral Commission. Alassane Soumanu, who got about 11.3%, while Corentin Kuone came in third with 2.3%, with overall voter turnout at about 50%. The Beninese Constitutional Court is expected to announce the final results of Sunday's election that took place peacefully after a campaign marred by violence. The main opposition figures, who are either in exile, barred, or have been sentenced to jail, had called for a boycott of the ballot. Or here in Nigeria, Governor Umaru Fintiri of Adamawa State has commended the Catholic Bishop of Yola Diocese, Stephen Dami Manza, who is also the Adamawa State Chairman, Christian Association of Nigeria, for the exemplary project in humanitarian care and support. He gave the commendation while commissioning 86 housing units built by the Catholic Diocese of Yola in collaboration with Missio Germany for the resettlement of internally displaced persons.
At the peak of the insurgency in 2014, the Catholic Diocese of Yola opened up its doors to accommodate those displaced as a result of the humanitarian crises. It's a new dawn for many of those who have been unable to return to their ancestral homes, most of which have been completely destroyed, in addition to a fragile security situation. They can now rest easy as these 86 housing units built by the Catholic Diocese of Yola are ready to be commissioned. Governor Umaru Fintiri arrives at the venue in company of his deputy and is received by the Catholic Bishop of Yola, Bishop Stephen Dami Manza, who applauds the support of the government and other partners to make this dream come true.
The sustainable development activities are vital to ensure that people who resettle are not abandoned, but are given the support needed to rebuild their lives for over the long time in a serene and secure environment, which is highly needed in the country today. We appeal to government and humanitarian actors that displaced persons need to be given opportunities to be productive and self-reliant as against being passive recipients of aid, which results in dependency syndrome, as earlier highlighted.
Special guest is the Catholic Bishop of Sokoto Diocese, Bishop Matthew Kuka, who describes the action of the church as a lesson Nigeria must learn from.
That the mosque was built solely with the resources of the Diocese of Yola. The significance of this should not be lost on us. Your Excellency, I want to appeal to you. When you meet as governors of northern Nigeria, please remind your brothers that we need the governors to guide us, to lead us, and together with religious leaders. We should not just talk about dialogue as bishops and imams and emirs sitting together, taking photographs. There needs to be a concrete manifestation and expression of our genuine commitment to one another.
Catering to the needs of people displaced in a security situation is no easy task, and Governor Fintiri commends the humanitarian gesture, a resettlement program his government identifies with.
Our government had identified with this important humanitarian gesture of housing support for IDP right from the onset through the allocation of the land on which the estate is built, the provision of electricity, and soon to be approved police posts.
Beneficiaries are also grateful to be able to live their lives as normally as they can.
We thank him and we thank God for the effort made. And in Adamawa State, I think he's the first person that ever cared for IDP like this.
The area, located in Sangare Mardi, Jirai local government, Adamawa State, comprises a school, a church and mosque, a clinic, portable drinking water and other facilities.
As we end the program today, Google today is honoring one of Africa's most prolific artists, Oliver De Coque, for his 74th posthumous birthday with a doodle. The illustration for the doodle was created by Lagos-based Ohab TBJ, who shared the image of his work via his Instagram handle. The doodle pays tribute to the Nigerian Igbo high life legend who died in June 2008. Born on the 14th of April 1947 in Anambra State, southeast Nigeria, Oliver Sunday Akanite began to play music at the age of 11. He was taught to play the guitar by Piccolo, a Congolese guitarist living in Nigeria. He grew up to become one of Africa's most prolific recording artists. That's it on the program today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Layo Adeoki.